A women's health group specializing in abortion services is closing several clinics in Texas. It's all due to state laws taking effect after the Supreme Court ruling that overturned Roe v. Wade. Maggie Glynn looks closer at the closings and what new polling shows about how Texans feel about the state's ban on abortion.
It's devastating to think that we won't be in this state anymore.
Whole Women's Health will be closing the doors of its 4 Texas clinics for good. The clinic here in North Austin has been open for nearly 20 years, but now these chairs will remain empty.
We have always been able to offer comprehensive care. So we've been able to offer family planning, routine GYN services, but our expertise is in abortion care.
Whole Women's Health says Texas's laws outlawing abortions now gave them no choice but to close. The new trigger law, for example, outlaws nearly all abortions with no exceptions for rape or incest. The majority of Texans don't agree with that level of limited access, according to a new poll from the Texas Politics Project. While 37% of voters expressed support for the state's trigger law, only 15% of Texans agreed that abortion should never be permitted.
Politics that had been driven in recent years by the fact that Republicans dominate the political system in Texas. They dominate elections. That's given a big influence to the faction in the Republican Party that is most extreme on abortion.
In the meantime, Whole Women's Health is fundraising to open a clinic in New Mexico. They hope the communities they served here can travel the hundreds of miles to them when they need help.
We want to make sure that we can continue to offer the services that our patients have come to rely on us for over the border.
Maggie Glynn for State of Texas.
It's important to note that some Republican lawmakers, including State Representative Briscoe Cain, had floated the idea of trying to outlaw pregnant Texas residents from crossing state lines to get an abortion in states where it's legal. The state does have a law that allows private citizens to sue anyone who helps someone get an abortion in Texas after 6 weeks of pregnancy. Lawmakers could work to expand that law to allow lawsuits against those who help pregnant people seek an abortion in other states. The Texas Politics Project also asked people in their poll various scenarios for a legal abortion. More than 80% favored some type of access if the mother's health is seriously endangered by the pregnancy. 80% favored access if the pregnancy was the result of rape. Nearly the same amount if the pregnancy was the result of incest. There is currently no exception for rape or incest in the Texas trigger ban set to take effect. These developments come 9 years after another high-profile battle over abortion at the Texas state capitol. It was one of the biggest stories I've ever covered, the first of 2 filibusters against abortion restrictions pushed by Texas Republicans. Leading that fight, a Democratic senator who would soon be in the national spotlight, Wendy Davis. I spoke with her to get her perspective on the current state of women's health in Texas.
To beat back an anti-abortion bill that would have closed almost all of our clinics here in the state. And it was kind of almost a made-for-TV script because the thousands of people who came to the Capitol that day ultimately were responsible in the last 15 minutes before that midnight deadline to kill the bill. They were responsible in drowning out the ability of the Secretary of the Senate to take a vote and get that bill passed. And we all know that ultimately we were called back to another special session. The bill did pass into law. More than half of our clinics closed, but ultimately the Supreme Court overturned it and things were once again stable here. The lesson for me to be learned in that is that when we show up and when we fight and we believe in our collective and individual power, we can rely on our ability to make change. And I know people are feeling so upset, frustrated, sad, angry, as am I, but we can't let that lead us to a state of giving up. It's more important now than ever that we fight.
What happened 9 years ago resulted in lengthy court battles, and we're already seeing that setting up with what's happening now in Texas. Where does that uncertainty leave women in Texas?
You know, it leads them in a really murky place. And this is where organizations like the one that I founded, Deeds Not Words, and others are leaning in and stepping up to try to be the backstop for people who need them, people who need a voice and people who are going to protect them as much as possible in this moment. And part of that is defensive, but part of it is proactive. Because what we know is, based on Justice Thomas's concurring opinion, based on the fact that the right to privacy and liberty that was underpinned in Roe and that has now been found non-existent by this Supreme Court, we know that contraceptive care is at risk, and we have got to do everything we can proactively to put in place the kind of protections that are needed. Today, Harris County, where Houston is, passed a resolution proclaiming its support for reproductive health care. Austin is doing the same. Denton County even is about to step up and do this. And I think it's really important, city by city, county by county, that we are stepping forward and telling the people that live here, we are going to do everything we can to give you the proactive health care that you need. And until we can get this decision overturned, we're going to try to get you the care you need out of state.
You can see more from my full conversation with Senator Davis on our website. Just scan the QR code on your screen right now to go to our State of Texas page, where we have a link. Plus, you can get a closer look at the filibusters that shaped a key part of Texas politics for years to come. It's all online now. Disappointment and desperation for Texas families who need food assistance now. We look closer at what's behind long delays for this essential aid.